called for a ceasefire in Ukraine. If Vladimir Putin doesn't come to the table to negotiate with you, will you put additional sanctions on Russia?
Sounds likely.
And do you think that the war should be frozen currently along
The
the
war
front
should have
battle
never
lines?
started. If you had a competent president, which you didn't, the war wouldn't have happened. The war in Ukraine would have never happened if I were.
Well, then shit, you should be able to shut it right down. It's like your health care plan. We have, Obamacare is a disaster, and we're working on a replacement. Well, nothing is better. Just having zero, it would be better than a disaster. Who can't come up with a health care plan that's slightly better than a disaster? Same shit.
President. But that couldn't happen because the election was rigged. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President, there's been some debate within your orbit over whether or not to keep or eliminate H-1B visas. What's your position on that? Do you want to keep H-1Bs or do you want to get rid of them?
I like both sides of the argument, but I also like very
Leadership.
competent people coming into our country, even if that involves them training and helping other people
Before those people lose their jobs.
that may not have the qualifications they do. But I don't want to stop. And I'm not just talking about
Whoa, what?
into our country, even if that involves them training and helping other people that may not have the qualifications they do. But
Does anybody get that? Is it? I'm lost in the pronouns of it. So are the foreigners coming over here and training Americans to do things that they don't know how to do? Or are they coming over here and they're being trained by Americans to do jobs that they don't have the qualifications to do before they come over, which would be the reason why they would get an H-1B visa?
I don't want to stop. And I'm not just talking about engineers. I'm talking about people at all levels. We want competent people coming into our country. And HB1, I know the program very well. I use
Yeah, HB1. HB1 is great. Absolutely. H1B, we don't know. It could be something. I've heard about it, but I don't know. HB1's kick ass, though.
the program. Maitre d's, wine, experts.
Yes, we need more wine experts from overseas. How are we going to fill, Mr. President, we cannot have a wine expert gap.
Even waiters, high quality waiters.
Yeah, not these dipshits from America. You need high quality waiters, ones with European accents.
You got to get the best people. Now, then you go into
What the fuck?
people like Larry, and he needs engineers, and Massa needs, and this gentleman needs engineers like nobody's ever needed engineers, right? So we.
He needs engineers like nobody's ever needed engineers.
Have to have the quality people coming in. Now, by doing that, we're expanding businesses, and that takes care of everybody.
Yeah, especially the people who are displaced and are qualified for these jobs but don't get them because people with H-1B visas, if they can't move to another job, and if they try to quit, they'll be kicked out of the country, so you can overwork them and underpay them. And basically, it's like white-collar slave labor because they're forced to stick to a job that brought them there, even if it becomes untenable and dangerous or stupid.
So I'm sort of on both sides of the argument.
Great. That's leadership, ladies and gentlemen. Quote Donald Trump, I'm sort of on both sides of the argument.
But what I really do feel is that we have to let really competent people, great people, come into our country. And we do that through the H-1 program.
Mr. President, are you looking to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico in an effort to force negotiations sooner on USMCA?
No, it's really not on USMCA. It has nothing to do with that. They've allowed, both of them, Canada very much so, they've allowed millions and millions of people to come into our country that shouldn't be here. They could have stopped them, and they didn't. And they've killed 300,000 people last year.
Wait, the Canadians? Holy shit. What'd they do? Lager them to death?
Opinion, have been destroyed by drugs.
Look, if you're going to go to a hockey game and where they don't have glass up, wear a helmet.
Drugs by fentanyl. The fentanyl coming through Canada is massive. The fentanyl coming through Mexico is massive. and people are getting killed, and families are being destroyed. I mean, the son gets killed, and the family is a basket case for the rest of their lives. I mean,
Yes, the son could. If they lose a daughter, I mean, what are they good for? You know, maybe they're a good earner if you live a few blocks from Jeffrey Epstein's house. But you lose the son, man. That's the thing.
seen mothers that thought they'd heal. They never heal. They say it gets worse with time. It gets worse with time. They lose their boy. They lose their baby. They lose their young daughter to fentanyl
Not the old daughters, though. Yeah, eventually you get tired of it.
poisoning. And I had that talk with President Xi the other day, too, of China. I said, we don't want that crap in our country. We got to stop it. I would have stopped it. I had a deal with him where he was going to give the maximum penalty, which in China is the death penalty for drug dealing. And he was all said he was going to give the maximum penalty to fentanyl dealers. If they send to the United States, they were going to get the death penalty.
You mean the military guys that are in charge of coordinating the precursors and getting them to Mexico in the first place?
And of course, Biden didn't pick that up. I had that deal all done. It was all wrapped
Yeah, it was all done.
up. We were going to have it done.
What did you what did you give them in exchange for, like, hey, don't kill, you guys kill your drug dealers and we'll give you what? What was your trading point on that? If it was a deal, obviously it wasn't a one-sided deal, right? You apparently think very highly of Xi Jinping, so clearly there would have had to been some kind of quid pro quo.
And then the election went, let's put it nicely, didn't go the proper way. I'm trying to be nice about it. It was rigged. And we had
Still bitching.
an incompetent president elected, and he never followed up on that deal. But he should have followed up, because if they got the death penalty, they wouldn't be sending fentanyl to Mexico, Canada, and other places.
Tariffs on China, Mr. President, how much will the
We're
tariffs-
thinking about that, too. We're talking about a tariff of 10% on China based on the fact that they're sending fentanyl to Mexico and Canada.
How soon on those tariffs?
Probably February 1st is the date we're looking at.
Right. He's going to basically create a spike in trade with China, like, in the next couple of weeks, as everybody, next week and change, next 10 days, leading up to that date. So, because that's one of the reasons why China's seen a spike in exports, is because people are trying to buy this shit that they need from China as far as gear and machinery and shit like that before the February 1st deadline.
For Mexico and China, we're talking about approximately 25%.
Date on the Gaza ceasefire?
Wait, China 10%, but Mexico and Canada. Sorry, China 10%, but Mexico and Canada 25%?
And are you planning to travel to the Middle East soon?
We're thinking about going to the Middle East, not yet. We have a thing called the hostages are coming back going on right now, and they are coming
A thing called the hostages are going on right now.
back.
It's a long title. I think it needs some truncating. I think a little pruning.
Some of them have been very damaged. You look at the young lady with her hand practically blown off. You know how that happened, right? Did you know how that happened? When you find out, you're not going to be too happy because it was terrible. But the hostages are starting to come back. If I weren't here, they wouldn't be back ever. They would have never come back. They would have all died. If this were done a year earlier, if Biden would have done this deal a year and a half, 2 years ago, or frankly, it should have never happened. October 7th should have never happened. Nobody should be dead.
Yeah, this the whole horseshit. Hold on one second. Is really hostage girl hand blown off? Tears of joy. Three released hostage dive in their mother's arms after 50 months of captivity. Emily Damaris, wounded hand swiftly becomes symbol of Israeli defiance. Ex-captive's mom shares photo showing her daughter's unbandaged hand after she lost 2 fingers in the October 7th attack. This would be her. And her supporters use a rock-on emoji to celebrate her return because she's forever throwing the horns, I guess, is the idea. clear production. Emily, a dual Israeli-British citizen, was seen waving her bandaged left hand in a phone call to her relatives. The gunman who burst into her home shot her dog. She reportedly told her family and friends in her first conversation with them on Sunday that she was hit too as she tried to comfort her dying pet. And in an Instagram post, the release house wrote that outpouring of love had heartburst of excitement. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm the happiest in the world just to be. Emily's post was signed with the rock on. After the image was published, supporters added bandages to the rock on emoji, transforming Damari's injury into a symbol of defiance. Most widely circulated version was made by Aviad Merji, an Israeli sneaker artist who posted it on Instagram, along with the words, "A great small victory." That would be... Yeah, hold on. They made it. There you go. So that was one of the designs they did.
But through weakness, they allowed it to happen, and then it was a disaster from them. But you go back just 6 months ago, many of these young people were living. You know, young people don't die like that. They're just dying. And young people aren't dying at 22 and 23 years old. They don't die. But now they're dying,
Sometimes they die.
and you wonder why they're
I mean, yeah, hostages die, especially when they were injured when they were taken.
dying. They're being killed, and they have been killed. But they say 6 months ago you would have had 11
Well,
more
the dead ones.
living hostages. Think of that. 6 months ago. But Biden couldn't get it done, and it was only the imposition that I put on as a deadline that got it done. But it's a very sad situation. It should have never happened. I'll tell you, two things should have never happened. Three things. Inflation should have never happened. It would have never happened except for what they did to energy and their crazy spending. And you
Also, no. We had supply shock post-COVID. Inflation was everywhere. Like, again, explain to me how Russia is like Putin is a genius and Russia's doing great when they have 9% inflation currently.
Ukraine would have never happened. Never. By the way, Russia
Gibberish.
never would have gone into Ukraine. I had a very strong understanding with Putin that it would have never, ever happened. He disrespected
Really? What would you have done if he'd done it while you were president?
Biden. Very simple. He disrespects people. He's smart. He understands. He disrespected Biden. And also, the Middle East would have never happened because Iran was broke. They had no money.
Yeah, the whole Middle East. It would have never existed.
They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. It would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. But it did happen. So this is the cards I've been given. And we're getting the hostages back. That would have never happened under Biden. They would have never come back. They were just dying not that slowly. They were dying or being killed.
Biden got a bunch of hostages back too. Like, this is how this shit works.
But that was what
I'm beginning, though, to think that there were powers at play that were like, hang on to them until Trump gets in, make him look like a hero, and then we'll give you some stuff on the backside and let you slip out and go live in Qatar.
was happening.
So are you going to keep sending weapons to Ukraine, or are you going to turn off the tap soon?
Well, we're looking at that. We're talking to Zelensky. We're going to be talking with President Putin very soon. And we'll see how it all happens. We're going to look at it one thing I do feel, the European Union should be paying a lot more than they're paying because under Biden, I mean, we're in there for $200 billion more. Now, it affects them more than it affects us. We have an ocean in between, right? Little thing called an ocean.
But this kind of de minimis language that he uses all the time is so fucking lazy. But his response, like, they have more in this than we do, as if freedom as an idea doesn't mean anything to him.
The European Union should equalize. We're in there for $200 billion more than the European Union. I mean, what are we, stupid? I guess the answer is yes.
Or we're a lot richer. We're the biggest economy in the world.
Because they must think so. But the European Union takes advantage of us tremendously on trade, and they now take advantage of, and always have. If I didn't get involved years ago, in my first term, one of the first things I noticed was that they're not paying enough. They're not paying, and a lot of those countries weren't even paying.
And by the way, this was him trying to undercut NATO.
The NATO countries, they weren't paying. Only 7 out of 28 were paying. We were one of them, and Poland was one, and they had a few of them that were paying, and some were paying very proudly. Usually, the closer to the borderline of Russia they were, the faster they paid. Okay, the ones that were
Gee, I wonder why. It's almost as if they understood the threat.
further away tended not to pay so fast. And one thing on that, I think they should lift their number not to 2%, but to 5%. NATO should be at 5%, not at 2%. 2% is ridiculous. Yeah.
Did U.S. President Xi, in your conversation about Ukraine, you asked him to get involved in
Yeah.
helping settle that? Can you tell us
I
about
did.
that?
Yeah. I said, you ought to get it settled because he's not done
I
very
don't want to do it. I don't know what I told them 24 hours and it obviously hasn't happened. You should do it.
much on that. He's got a lot of power, like we have a lot of
Uh-huh. You mean because he supplies arms to Russia?
power. I said, you ought to get it settled. We did discuss it. Yeah.
Mr. President, you launched your crypto coin the other day. Do you intend to continue selling products that benefit yourself personally while you're president?
Well, I don't know if it benefited. I don't know where it is. I don't know much about it other than I launched it. I heard it was very successful. I haven't checked it. Where is it today?
You made a lot of money, sir.
How much?
Several $1 billion, it seems like, in the last several days.
Several billion? That's peanuts for these guys.
So you talked about the letter from President Biden.
Jesus Christ.
Give us some sense, broadly speaking.
Yeah, he wrote me a
about
nice
what-
letter. I mean, I did open it last night. And I didn't know. Peter said, did you get the letter? I said, wait a minute, let's see the letter. It's sort of a tradition. You put it in the drawer, especially of the beautiful Resolute desk, right? And I opened it, and there it
Yeah, even if it's not in the actual Oval, because there are several desks, and sometimes the Resolute desk is in another building or at the Smithsonian.
was.
Yeah, but no matter where, no matter who the president is and when they leave, they always go and find that desk, even if it's in storage, and put their letter in the drawer. In the drawer, you know where to find it.
Said to number 47. And it was a very nice letter. I mean, I could show it because I think it was a nice letter. Maybe I will. I think it,
What do you say in terms of
just basically it was a little bit of an inspirational type letter, you know. Enjoy it, do a good job. Important, very important, how important the job is. But I may,
I saw the word important. I saw the word job. I saw do it.
I think it was a nice letter. I think I should let people see it because it was a positive for him in writing it. I appreciated the letter.
Mr. President, were security concerns at all a factor when deciding to move your inauguration indoors?
No, not at all. No, not at all.
No, I'm not in danger from booze.
It was just cold. Look, if we would have, you know, I just went out to the helicopter, right, we said goodbye. That's a tradition. As long as before it used to be a stagecoach, and then helicopters came along.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was a straight jump from stagecoach to helicopter. They just bypassed cars entirely.
But that's been a tradition. You go out and you do that.
Yeah, you go out to the stagecoach, and then one day you walk out to the stagecoach, and there's a fucking Huey sitting there, and you're like, my goodness, what is this contraption? Eleanor, come out and look at this. I was expecting a stagecoach, and there's some sort of Gila-bird situation. Look at the helmet on that fellow.
And we stood there for 10 minutes, and I'll tell you what, people would not have been able to get through that day. That was cold. It was sort of interesting. Don't let the sun fool you.
I won't. Thank you. Yeah.
Tell me something. Sunny days can get very cold, can't they?
Oh my fucking God. Sunny days can get very cold. I look forward to his acoustic album.
Because that was so freezing yesterday.
Yeah, the sun was out. I'm like, why aren't I hot? Maybe I'll get warmer if I look right at the sun. Ouch!
You couldn't have gotten through it. It would have
Nah.
been. And the answer is no, it wasn't security. With that being said, I thought the Capitol, the Rotunda,
Was so much warmer.
was beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous. And so devoid of maggots. Like, I didn't have to look out at this crowd of my supporters and go, ew. What the hell? These are the people that like me? Yuck.
72 degrees, unbelievable sound. You know, it's like being in an opera house.
It is. It's like being in an opera house. It's because it's echoey.
I could see people wanting to do it there rather than outside.
Why did you remove John Bolton's security clearance, sir?
Because I think there was enough time. It's we take a job. You take a job. You want to do a job. We're not going to have security on people for the rest of their lives. Why should we?
Because they might get killed because of they were national security advisor like 6 years ago.
I thought he was a very dumb person, but I used him well because every time people saw me come into a meeting with John Bolton standing behind me, they thought that he'd attack them because he was a warmonger. He's the one that got us involved, along with Cheney and a couple of others, convinced Bush, which was a terrible decision, to blow up the Middle East. You know, we blew up the Middle East and we left.
We did? The whole Middle East? Well, shit. Israel was there. Huh. The whole Middle East. We blew it up and we left? Then there's just none of it? What's there now? Is it a whole like Portland?
No, we got nothing out of it except a lot of death. We killed a lot of people. And John Bolton was, one of those guys, a stupid guy. But no, you can't have that for life. You shouldn't expect it for life.
Well, yeah, now, especially if he gets killed now.
That meeting that you mentioned with President Zelensky, will that take place here, and when and where will you meet with?
I don't know. I mean, look, President Zelensky would like to have peace. He's told me that very strongly. He'd like to have peace, but it takes two to tango. We'll see what happens.
When will you meet with President Putin?
Anytime they want, I'll meet. I'd like to see that end. Millions of people are being killed, and they're being killed. It's a vicious situation, and they're now largely soldiers. A lot of people have been killed in the cities. They look like demolition sites. Buildings, massive buildings bombed and coming down.
Yeah, the 5,000-year-old buildings that look like penises,
Down.
right?
The thing
Old penises.
with Ukraine is that many more people died than you're reporting. You're not reporting the real numbers, and I'm not blaming you for that. I'm blaming maybe our government for not wanting to release those numbers. Many more.
It's not up to us, stupid. We don't release those numbers. They're not our numbers.
People died than what you know about. When those big buildings come down and they say 2 people were injured, no. Many people, thousands of people are being killed. But the real killing now is on the war front.
Right, because if you fire a bullet, there's no such thing as gravity, so the bullet just travels and goes around trees and rocks and through gullies and around playgrounds up until it finds a human being, and then it hits them like Gene Simmons' bullets in Runaway.
It's a very flat land.
Oh my God! And the only thing that stops a bullet is a human body.
And the only thing that stops a bullet is somebody's body.
Fuck me. Or the gravity meets trajectory. Could just kind of fall. What can you imagine what this motherfucker thinks happens during hunting season?
And you have young soldiers. So Russia's lost about 800,000 soldiers now. Ukraine's lost about 600 or 700,000. I think the numbers are low that they're giving out. But they've lost massive numbers of young soldiers. And that will.
Sorry, the smaller country with nowhere near the size military of the country that attacked them has lost fewer people while being attacked than the attacking army has lost. Shame.
War should stop. It's very flat. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very flat. That's the thing about it. It's very, it's the worst kind of battlefield.
Beautiful farmland, and it's flat and
flat and farming.
really beautiful in a different kind of
In a flat kind of
way,
way.
but they don't have any protection.
No, they don't have any protection because it's so fucking flat. It's like if you fire a bullet in Kansas towards, just due west. Somebody in Iowa is fucked.
Only thing that stops a bullet is a body.
That is so fucking weird.
And those bodies are stopping a lot of bullets, and they're getting.
All right. Well, so how many per body? Just letting you know, because there's a lot of bullets flying, obviously.
They're being decimated, both sides.
Both sides of the bodies? Well, I guess, So they're not stopping. Are they? Is it a through and through?
Your conversation with President Xi, what did you tell him in terms of when to expect tariffs? And what can he do to avoid them?
About which one?
Your
About
conversation
tariffs?
with President
We didn't talk too much about tariffs, other than he knows where I stand. Look, I put large tariffs on China. I've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars. Until I was president, China never paid
10 cents.
not 10 cents to the
By the way, can I remind everybody again, for those that don't know, Tencent is a Chinese company. What they want is it to be like the U.S. government. It was one of the first targets of like separating it from the government or putting it on a blacklist. Like he doesn't understand that they wanted to break Tencent away from the Chinese government, and the Chinese government wouldn't let it happen because it's a huge moneymaker for them.
United States. With me, they paid hundreds of $600 billion or so, or more than that even, of tariffs. And if I didn't do that, you wouldn't have a steel mill open in the United States right now. You wouldn't have one steel mill open.
Yeah. Because Obama's steel tariffs didn't work.
In the United States. So what I did is I saved the steel industry. I saved other industries too with other tariffs.
Like what?
Uh,
Yeah, what industry did you save? What was it?
Other countries are big abusers also. You know, it's not just China.
Yeah, China's, I mean, obviously, you know, slave cotton and intellectual property theft, but France, wine, cheese, mustache wax, those fuckers.
China's an abuser, but the European Union is
Right.
very, very bad to us. They treat us very, very badly. They don't take our cars. They don't take our cars at all. They don't take our farm products, essentially. They don't take very much. We have a $350 billion deficit with the European Union.
Yeah, because we buy and repurpose things from there. Just like China, they're a wholesaler for American salespeople.
They treat us very, very badly. So they're going to be in for tariffs. It's the only way you're going to get back. It's the only way you're going to get fairness. You can't get fairness unless you do that. But the European Union's treated us very badly. But essentially, everybody treats us badly.
Yeah, essentially. Boo fuckity who.
You know, everybody treats us badly. Yes, go ahead. Because we allow them to. Because we've had stupid people doing this, and we can't have. I'd like to have these three people negotiate for us, just for 1 week, and we'd be a rich country again. But we'll be rich.
Mr. President, on AI data centers,
Why don't you just ask him to? Wasn't that the whole point of the best people last time?
will you rescind President Biden's executive order that opens up federal land?
On which centers?
On data centers. Will you rescind President Biden's executive order that opens up federal lands for data centers and energy production?
No, I wouldn't do that. That sounds to me like it's something that I would like. I'd like to see federal lands opened up for data centers. I think they're going to be very important. Again, we have a lot of competition for that. So it's an honor to have these three great people, great.
Yeah, the land he's talking about is part of the land that they're building on because it happened under Biden 2 fucking years ago.
CEOs and great geniuses, all three. It's an honor that they want to come to our country, but we're going to make it as easy as we can for them because other countries want them to. I'm going to have to go now. Thank you all very much.
Boring.